Hello and welcome to Code Together's Hour of Code. This week's topic is the builder pattern. So let's jump right in, right? So first of all, what is the builder pattern? It's one of a few. So patterns in general come in a few categories, I should say. There are like architectural patterns that sort of govern how you write large parts of your code. We have patterns that are like in a way of, and they are usually like a way of thinking, right? Like almost a way of like solving problems. You have patterns that are there specifically to increase readability and like maintainability. I'd think that Builder is sort of part of that. But more importantly, there's also like what Builder is most famously for is that it's a pattern that solves the problem of creating objects. Now, why the hell would you need a pattern to create an object, right? Everybody knows it's super easy to create objects. If I need a list, I'll just do var list equals new list. I'll make a list of string or something, right? Why would I need a pattern for this? And the answer is you wouldn't. You obviously wouldn't need a pattern for making something as simple as a list of string. The builder pattern comes in when the objects you're building are slightly more complicated. So, first of all, I think we should probably create a complicated object. That's going to be step one. So let's drive right in and do that. So we'll make a public class and we'll say, I think a pretty good example is like a settings object. So we'll do a settings object. So we'll do like my settings object. So what does this object need? Well, I mean, we'll need like a preferred output or something maybe. So we'll do prop, maybe an enum. So we'll do prop. I'll make an enum for that, right? So we'll do public enum preferred output. I'll do like standard output file stream 0mq rabbitmq, right? Something like that. Like we'll have these 5 different settings for it. So we'll go back here and say preferred output. We'll just make it preferred output. And we might make it. So here's a pretty common one. The protected set is fairly common to see on builders. And it actually, no, not protected, internal set, sorry. So accessibilities. I'm not sure accessibilities. I'm not sure how many of you know all of them. So just to be safe, let's just talk about them quickly as well. There is public, which is like, hey, everyone can access this. It is the most forgiving and nice one. It's very common because it means, hey, everything can access this. Don't block anyone from looking at this property. After that, the second most open one is probably internal, which is everything defined in the same assembly has access to this. That means everything in the same project. So right now, for example, I am in this builder pattern project. Everything in here will have access to this, but not something from an outside project. So with an internal setter like this, that means anything in my project can modify this value, but not something using this from outside. And like if I were to package this up as like a NuGet, that just means no one can set this setting except via the ways I provide for it. Like if I have a constructor, they can modify it using that, but they won't be able to modify it after it's been constructed, for example. Or if I construct it via a builder, hint, hint, maybe that's what we're going to do, right? Then they won't be able to change it either. Obviously, in this case, my code is actually in here too, but maybe we'll change that later, right? Maybe we'll turn this into a library, and I'll show you why this is useful. Internal is the second most accessible one. Then we have protected. And protected means that it can only be modified in this class, or it can only be seen. It can only be seen by this class and children of this class. So like things that inherit from me are allowed to see and modify this value. I should stop saying modify because that's not necessarily true, but see, like it's more like, are you allowed to access this at all? Yeah. After protected, there's private. I think you all know private, hopefully. Private just means no one but me. And that's it. Like, it's no one but me. If you inherit me, you don't see this anyways. It's mine. No touchy. Hands off. So I'd say that by far the most common ones to see is public and private. There's some funny gotchas like this one. You see, there's no accessibility here. This is a class, so this is actually internal. It's internal by default. But this method is private by default. It's a bit silly. Same thing is like if I do, string ASD, that's private by default. So it's considered really good practice to like always be explicit with writing things out. You should always be showing your accessibilities. So anyways, because of that, right, now we can use internal set here and be fairly confident that no one else is going to modify this. There is a reason why I don't want to set private here. And there's also a reason why I can't use protected, because I want to be able to modify this from my builder. What else do we need? We have a preferred output. We should probably have like a prefix. Yeah, let's make that. So public string prefix. That's a nice one. We need a few more settings. We could have like public int times to repeat. I'm just making all this up on the fly, by the way. I have no idea what these things are actually going to be. We're probably not going to use them per se, but we're going to build an object with them. And then nicest of all would probably be to have something like to really show the strength of a builder would be to have like some other object that in turn might be hard to build. But yeah. Well, let's make up let's make it like an interface. So I'm like public interface I does something. I'm flat out of ideas. Sorry, we'll just do I does something, right? It's an interface that can do something. So we'll have to be like, well, public I does something does something, right? These are perfect things, perfect names. So good. And obviously these should all be internal set as well. So there we go. So given that when it looks like this, you know what? Actually, let's make that change. Let's make that library, just because it just makes so much more sense to if this is its own library. Everything will just make so much more sense. Let's just add a new project. We'll do a class library. I will call it hour of code builder pattern .library. Perfect, right? And then we'll just go here. We'll take these things and we will move them to here. And we'll do rename file to my settings object. Perfect. Yep. And then we'll just have to add a project reference to the library so that we can use it. So then in here, if we clean this up a little bit, we could now do something like, var my settings equals new my settings object, and it's going to ask me to use this, right? And that's fine. It has the default constructor, of course, because all objects have the default constructor. But if you look at my settings here, I can access these. I can see them because the getter is public. But if I try to do preferred output equals, preferred output dot RabbitMQ, it's going to say, you can't do that. You're not allowed to access the setter. You're not allowed to modify this object. So what can I do? I'm kind of trapped. Unless we make a constructor, there's no way for me to do this. the problems with constructors is that, like, what if all 4 of these are optional? What if all 4 of them are optional? Meaning you can just leave them be, or you can create them. Well, you could create a constructor without default values for all of them, but using that will be kind of cumbersome. Because, you know, in order to specify the third argument, you have to specify the first 2, even if they're all optional. So, you can get around that with named properties, but named constructor properties, yeah, you know, I don't know. It doesn't look good. So the best solution, according to the builder pattern, is to provide a builder. So we're going to do that. We're going to make a little bit of a builder here. We're going to say public class my settings object. Actually, my settings builder. We'll call it my settings builder. So it's just another class. And they're usually not static, because the idea is that you make it and then you call methods on it, and then you finally do like .build, and it will give you back a settings object. You've probably seen this. This is fairly common in most .NET libraries, actually. Like, if I were to open up something using Entity Framework or something, you definitely see this. Let's see if I can find something. I'm just loading some random web application thing I have right now. If we go to startup and we close this window, so this for example, look at OPT here. OPT is a DB context options builder, and then we call opt.use SQLite, you know, and this is how we configure Entity Framework's DB context, and that's using a builder. So this is extremely, you see this quite a lot, and I'm going to show you how that works. So Bai just asked in chat, so wait, why we have to use a builder now? Well, we don't. Like, but the problem is, look at this. I make this object and I can't modify the properties, right? I can't do my settings dot preferred output equals, you know, anything. I can't do my settings dot prefix equals hello. That's not possible. And we don't want to let people access this object. The whole idea is that we want to make sure that, like, you can't change them after it's constructed, so we can't just make it public. But we also don't want completely unrestricted access to the properties either. We want to make sure, like, we want to sort of inspect the values, yeah. And now he's asking, yeah, but can't we use a constructor for that? Yes, but what if, like I said, were you not listening before? What if they are not what if they are all optional? Like, I mean, I can make a constructor, of course. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I can do preferred output. I can do, you know, string prefix. I can do int times to repeat, and I does something, and then I could, you know, assign. I want to initialize my property. I want to initialize my property. I want to initialize my property. And I want to initialize my property. And then, you know, if we set these to be, you know, equals preferred output dot that's curious. I didn't expect. Oh, there we go. Yeah, up here. Like, we'll set that to be default to file. We'll set prefix to default to hello. You know, we need a default value for all of them. I mean, that makes sense to just default to nothing, I suppose. Equals to 0, equals to 1. And this, yeah, this one is harder, right? I guess we default that to null. You could do something like this, but the problem is, like, what if I then want to do this? I want to set standard output and hello. Well, I need to do preferred output capital P dot standard output, and then the prefix is the next one, but like what if I wanted to say does something instead? So I'll just do does something colon new some class that implements does something, in this case null, because I haven't made any classes. You can do this, but it's not this is not very clean, and like what if it's just, this is sort of what the builder pattern is trying to fix, is that this doesn't feel good. And you have no control over. I can provide any value I can here, and like sure, I mean you can check it in the constructor, but if you have a lot of things, like remember, builder patterns are usually used for things that have a whole bunch of things. Like it can easily be 20, 30, 40 properties on them. A really good example is Serilog. We'll probably look at Serilog later, specifically because it's such a good use case for it. And this is not very maintainable as this grows. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this constructor. I don't want that constructor at all. I want to keep it like this. Because what I really want to do, right? What I really want to do is I want to do something like var my settings equals new my settings builder, and then I'll do this funny thing where you tab out and you do like dot. Oh, it's sorry, my Visual Studio settings are jumping around everywhere. You'll do dot like with output, and then we do a preferred output dot standard output, and then you would do dot build. This is sort of the pattern we expect. This is what's usually called the builder pattern. So we can implement this method, right? We'll just generate that method, and we'll say public my settings builder, right? So the thing is, all these with methods will just return the object itself. So they will take in something, and they will say preferred output equals output, and then return this. It's a type. Oh, right, because it conflicts. We have to do this dot preferred output. Oh, hang on. I'm being silly. Of course. Sorry, my bad. You would have a private my settings object settings equals new my settings object, and you would do settings dot preferred output equals output, and then return this. And this is basically the idea, is that you internally modify something that you have access to modify that other people don't. But remember, they're internal, meaning the builder has access to modify them. Program does not. And then we do build. Now build, fairly simple. It's going to return a my settings object, and it's going to return that by just doing return settings. So now I can do this. I get the settings object, and I don't, all I need to care about, like, oh, I'm modifying this field. I don't care about the other ones. But what if I want to modify the other ones? Well, we could do, with repeating, and I want to say like 5, I want to repeat 5 times. Well, we have to generate that method. We'll go here. We'll just change this again to my settings builder. Int repeating. Times. Times is a good name. Same thing. Settings dot repeat times to repeat equals times return this. Boom. This is the core. This is the core idea behind a builder. And it's how they are commonly used. It is, like I said, like I said in the pros for this video, right? It is a beginner topic. We're not using anything complicated, but beginners are not likely to understand why this is even worth it. We're just creating an object. Like, why is that so hard? It's not, right? It's not. This gets more and more useful the more complicated your objects are. which is why I now suggest we go look at one of my absolute favorite uses of this, which is Serilog. So Serilog is an excellent, highly excellent logger. It is the most used logger. It's way more used than Microsoft.extensions.logging, right? Don't think otherwise. We'll get the base package. We'll get the console package. Let's also get the file package, just because why not, right? Let's get some extensions going here. In fact, that's another good use of the since it's methods on an object. That means people can add their own things to it by making extension methods. Let's add the environment enricher. That's a good one. Let's add that. I'll just add some of the more common things I usually use. That's pretty good. Oh, Serilog exceptions, right? Oof, it's the best. We need that, clearly. Right, that should be enough. Now we've installed a ton of Serilog packages. So let's keep this for posterity. Those were our setting builder. Let's use a new one. Let's use the real one. So Serilog has like you do something like varlogger equals. Actually, you do log dot logger equals new logger configuration. So this is actually a builder. This is a builder. Don't be fooled. And their build command is called create logger. Create logger creates a logger using the configured sinks, enrichers, and minimum level. This is the absolute minimum amount of code to use Serilog, right? And if I now then do some stuff in my code here, like I'll do log.logger dot. Actually, you can just do log dot. Yeah, log dot. We'll do log dot warning. Warning. Great, excellent message. We'll also do log dot debug, saying value was null. I don't know, something like that. If we run this, not a lot's going to happen. Not a lot is going to happen. I can tell you that already. In fact, nothing happened. Look at how empty that is. And that is because we haven't configured our logger. So we have to do, we can do write to, and then dot, and then here you have console, for example. Because we added the console package, so, and this write to is a logger sync configuration object. So there's an extension method from the console package to add the console there. And it has a lot of properties you can change. Like you can set its console theme. You can set it's restricted to minimum levels and stuff like that. But maybe we want to configure all the minimum levels. We want to say minimum level is debug. So we want to say anything debug or higher. We want to write, and we can add more of these. We can do write to file. Maybe I want to write to a file. I should probably have a path, so I'll just do log.log. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So now if we run, hey, we got two messages. We got a warning message and a debug message. So I hope, and like I said, logger configuration here, that's a builder. If you were to configure all these things with like a constructor, it would be very, very complicated. Like, how would you even be able to configure this console thing? Like, you would have to have like a params, params sync. So let's assume sync is a class. So it would be something like that, and you would have to like create those up. But this creates a very nice way of letting people and like because of extensions, you can only add extension methods. You can't add extension constructor parameters or extension constructors. So this is a really nice way to allow this builder to be extensible. Remember, if I didn't install the console or file packages, I wouldn't have access to write2.console and write2.file. They came from there. So we can also do, enrich. I forgot to enrich. Let's do that. So let's do enrich dot, from log context. That's a standard one, pretty good. Enrich with one more. We want to enrich with environment username. No, let's not do that. With machine name. Yeah, we could do that. That's also an extension. Let's add that. So this means now if I were to, like, I don't know, maybe I will change my console logger here, because if we look at this one, what this one does, it takes in some stuff. Like there's a format provider, there's an output template, there's a way to make it log JSON. I'm just gonna look that up. Serilog log JSON. One second. Right, we need to add a compact JSON file writer, so we'll just do which one is that? It's the formatter, right? Is that the format provider? I think it is the format provider. Actually, no, it's not that one. So I'm not sure. Actually, no, I don't remember if there's a way to log it to the console. There is to the file. So let's do that instead. Let's have it back there. Let's do log.log, and we will add the. Oh, it goes first. It goes first. Cool. Let's do that. So we'll do the file, new compact JSON formatter. And the reason why I want to do this is because we have to install the Serilog formatting compact project. Not surprised. So now if we build this and open up this folder and go into bin, go into debug, go into .NET, there's a log.log file. Let's just delete that. And then we will start this. If we now look in log.log, it's actually JSONs. It's JSON values. You can see the timestamp. You can see the warning, the level. You can see the text. And you can see the machine name, because we enriched the log message with the machine name, meaning that is a registered property. So that's cool. Like if we were to send this up, this is a really good way to send like complicated things to like a sync, for example, a file or like a table of data, so you can easily browse things. Like you can add the request and stuff without having to manually add it all the time. So the logger configuration is a builder. Create logger is the equivalent of our build command. This is a better example because it's extensible. It does complicated things. All these methods are super configurable so that you can configure, how you add the console, how you add the file. And that is the purpose. 18F Kali is asking, can you explain how those extension methods work with a single builder? No, not really. You can look up the source for them yourself. They are open source on GitHub. I can explain what an extension method is. I can do that. So we could add our own extension method to my settings builder, for example. Let's do that. Let's uncomment that. And I'll need to, so we'll make a public static class my settings builder extensions. The name of the class doesn't really matter, but it is sort of like considered good practice to name it the class you will be extending and the word extensions. It has to be a static class. That's like the key idea. And then you make a public static method here. So this will be a my settings builder, because it's going to be a with command. And then you give it a name. So I say like with with forks. I don't know what that's going to do, but you can add forks. So then you do this, my settings builder. I'll call it builder. And you do, builder dot whatever you want to do. Like you can see here, like I have access to the methods that are defined on it already. So what's probably going on is that logger configuration has like some kind of list of things that you can add. I guess we can do that, right? So let's go. It probably has like a public void add sync, something like this, right? Add utensil, since we're adding forks, right? So you can add utensils here. So we'll take an I utensil. Actually, we'll do an I does something, and then we'll rename that to I utensil. Perfect. We figured out a use for it. So we'll just take this, and then we'll do settings dot. Right now it's complaining because like I don't know what this is. It's going to be a property, and it's going to be a list of I utensils. There we go. So now with fork, I guess we can call it with fork. I can do builder dot add utensil new fork. And obviously, like here, you would take in other things, like as you can see, these methods do, which would be like ways to configure the fork. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to make a fork. So we'll just generate a class fork, and it's an iUtensil. And then we need to return something. So we return this. Nope, we return builder. Sorry, the original. So now we can do, dot with fork, and that works. I hope that answered your question, because it's up to the designers of the builder class itself how you can extend it. You can even basically prevent extension by not exposing things like the add utensil method. And I could, of course, call the add utensil method up here, like, add utensil, but then like you lose the benefit of like providing one of these nice functions that can take in optional things, optional ways to configure it in one nice package. So I'd say that builders exist in many languages, right? Like I think Java has a lot of them as well, but extension methods really make them way more powerful. It makes them so much more powerful, because you can add, you can just make basically a more or less empty builder, and then just let people, like, just full of utility methods, of course, but like it doesn't really have a lot of public stuff, and then you just let other people build all the functionality around it. So this is pretty common. Actually, something that, like I said, if we look here, so here you do, services dot add DB context, and then you configure some options here. Like, what if we wanted to replicate this way of writing code? Specifically, like, what if I want to add an extension method to, for dependency injection? Because this is dependency injection, like we've talked through in, like I've done videos on this before. So if you don't know dependency injection, you really should look it up. It's such a core idea in .NET these days that you really can't write a lot of code without it, really. And it's really common to provide these extension methods that, like, so if you make like a library full of things, you would probably provide an extension method for the dependency injector to set up your things, so that whenever a consumer of your library comes and like, oh, I want to use this, I want to use Chris's pretty console library, I don't have to set up like 5 or 6 different injects. I just have to call one method, and it does it all for me. And that would be via an extension method. And you could then also have like a builder like this. And this is a little bit tricky because you can see there's an action here. The option is this OPT here. It's actually called an options action. So we'll go through this. This is some even bigger brain stuff than before, but it's pretty much the same thing, ideas here. It's just that you do have one more level of abstraction. So first of all, we need to add some NuGets again, because I need to have dependency injection installed in order to be able to set up a dependency injection. This is probably not a big surprise to any of you. But what is cool is that on my library project, I want to provide this method from the library project, right? So the library project also needs to know about dependency injection, but it doesn't need to have the full version. It doesn't need to have this package installed. I can just do this one, dependency injection.abstractions. This is basically this is a pattern that all the Microsoft extension libraries have. Is that they not all of them, most of them have a .abstractions version as well, and in there that's where they put all their interfaces. So that gives you an extremely lightweight way of referring to things. So what we will do now is I'm going to make a new class in here. This file is getting a lot of clutter. We'll make a new file. Public static class iService collection extensions, and I'm going to extract that to a new file. And then here I'll do public void add my settings. So we'll take in an service collection, and we'll take it from this one and we'll call it services, and badam. And we'll just yeah, we won't return anything. We'll just do this. This is fine. We forgot the static keyword. So now in here, if we remove all my logging and my builder stuff, we can even remove my fork and my stuff like that. Here we can do var services equals new service collection, and then we'll do services dot add my settings, and we'll var provider equals services dot build service provider. So we wanted to configure this a little bit, right? We wanted to pass in this OPT thing where we say OPT dot something. So in order to do that, we need to pass in something here. We need to pass in an action. And if you don't know what an action is, you really should see my video on delegates and events, because this is a delegate type. And you'll do an action over a builder. So we'll do an action over my settings builder, and we'll call it OPT. So what we'll do here, I'll say that var builder equals new my settings builder, and we'll just call OPT over builder, and this will update the builder, right? And then we just do services dot add whatever we want to do. I guess we're gonna do, let's do scoped for now, right? Let's do scoped, and we'll just do builder dot build. Of course you can't. You need to add the type. So my settings object. Why is it still complaining? That is definitely a thing. Maybe I need to var. Oh, is it maybe that I can't do that with ads? Only add singleton supports that one? Yeah. There we go. So you can't add a scoped if you add it scoped, it needs to know how to create it. And let's leave that there so it's very obvious what we're making. Right? So builder.build will return the settings object that has been configured by this action. and now it's injected into here. So now I can go back to program.cs, right? I can do opt.opt with output, with, and I'll probably do, something like this with repeating 5. Oh, those are the only ones we had. Well, that's fine, So it would look something like this. This is pretty common to see in like ASP.NET setups and stuff like that. So this is me calling my builder, but you see that I don't have to call .build because like the action will, or actually the extension method will do that for me. So this is, it didn't have to be like this, but this is like sort of the standard that Microsoft decided on, and the community has been kind of like, yeah, you know what, we don't hate this, let's do this. I use this at work to make a package that actually is dependent on Entity Framework Core without actually requesting a certain version of without having a dependency on Entity Framework Core, because like in my builder, I have a with method where I can pass in a func that points to that takes in a service provider to resolve the context and return and like call the save changes async method. It's really weird, but it works, and that's all because of this extension settings with these actions over builders. Right? That one is super duper big brain. If you talk to me someday, I might tell you how it works, because I'm not allowed to share company code, of course, but I can tell you how it works. But yeah, I think we've pretty much reached the end of builder pattern and how to use them. So now you should hopefully know how to make your own builders for your own complicated objects creation strategies. Like I said, for this example with my settings, since it's literally just setting fixed values, it's not that useful. It gets progressively more useful the more complicated your object is. And it is like, I think 90% of times you use builders is when you're building specifically settings objects. Because like a complicated settings object, like for example the one in Serolog, can be pretty complicated. And it wouldn't be obvious how to build them. Just to keep talking a little bit more, we can actually look at Serolog. So Serolog syncs file. This is the file sync that we just looked at. So for example, we can see here that they have an extension method here. They have an extension method here. So this is their static class that provides the file logger configuration extensions. Has some the default output template is here. The default other settings is here, right? And here's their method, file. Then again, apparently this one is obsolete, so we should probably look at the non-obsolete one. Those are all obsolete. This one is not obsolete. So here you have, you pass in this thing, which is the logger sync configuration that they are extending. So that's the write to dot. The write to there is a logger sync configuration on the builder object. They take in the path and everything, right? They check that some of the things you passed in are not null, because if you pass in null for any of them, it's not going to work. They build a formatter. They build a formatter, and then it just calls some other constructor or some other method. There's a lot of them. Maybe we can find the bottom one. Yeah, here's the bottom one. So this one, it just checks like that all the things have been configured either by you or by one of these methods, these overrides properties that you could pass in. And then finally, it does some code, and it calls this add sync method. Is there an add sync method in here? It is. So configure file, like you have this weird method here that is provided by Serolog itself. This is how you add the sync. You call this They pass in this method. So this is why I didn't want to show this at the beginning, because like this is a bit complicated for beginners to understand. These really massive files of using a builder, but it's really, really, really useful. So I think it's time to open up for questions. I'm being asked, can I share this session's code? Do you mean like the builder pattern.library and the builder pattern, these ones? There's not a lot of code here. But yeah, I'll put this in the Discord somewhere, for sure. The Serolog example was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, Serolog is like I said, it's probably my favorite use of the builder pattern, because it just solves their problems so nicely, especially in conjunction with the extension methods. So that, like at my previous job, we had our own enrichers that were defined. Yeah, we had our own enrichers that we made. So we made a package, we wrote the code, and we created an extension method to register them with Serolog, and it just worked. It was really good. Yeah, if there are no further questions, the session for today is over.
So I have no questions, but thanks for it. At what time will it be on your YouTube channel? Because I came late.
I mean, it goes up as soon as processing is done. But the problem with that is that processing can take quite a bit of time for a small channel like mine. So usually like 12 to 16 hours after. So, you know, sometime tomorrow. I'll start uploading as soon as I click stop recording.
Great then. Thank you.
All right.